Chapter 2266, Don't Let Slake Escape. However, the commotion here also caught Lou Karen's attention. That starship. Seems rather unusual. Nothing escaped her notice. Around the starship Slake piloted, all other vessels crashed out of control, clearing a path for it. This was far too abnormal. There's a strange warship over there. Lou Karen furrowed her brow slightly, pausing to consider, though she couldn't be bothered to dwell on it. She locked onto the warship directly, one of her laser cannons trained upon it, firing a long beam of light. Like a meteor plummeting from the heavens, it struck in an instant. Slake gritted her teeth. To avoid exposing her identity, she'd commandeered an ordinary domestic spacecraft, utterly incapable of evading this strike. With no other choice, she clutched both children and leapt from the sky. Plunging hundreds of meters, she heard the explosion roar behind her. Upon hitting the ground, she clutched the children, hearing their heart-wrenching cries as she fled for her life. She couldn't transform into a two-legged snake to carry them away. Though her younger daughter was a mutant, her level was too low. Without specialized equipment, prolonged underground infiltration would suffocate them. Slake had no choice but to use the most primitive method to take them away. But she didn't know that even thousands of meters above, someone could pinpoint their location with precision and clearly see their faces. Oh ho, Lou Karen's eyes lit up as she studied Slake's enlarged image on the screen. Isn't that the Silver Armor General? Why isn't he on the front lines? What's he doing here? She queried over the communication channel, whose opponent vanished. Jiang Guanhan's response came swiftly. RN, that guy seems to have escaped. Good. I've located her. She's fleeing, and she's got 2 children with her. Lou Karen puckered her lips. Looks pretty pitiful. I'm almost feeling sorry for them. She sighed. Lou Karen couldn't stand seeing anyone suffer. With a touch of melancholy, she waved her hand. Go kill them all quickly. This is making me uncomfortable. Jiang Guanhan and Hu Mengfang exchanged a glance, their eyes gleaming with wickedness. On the battlefield, who cares about your status? Enemies must be killed. When they slaughtered the elderly, women, and children of Huashu Kingdom, they showed no mercy. A single woman with 2 kids? Perfect. This time, you won't escape. Without a moment's hesitation, the 2 replied with relish, yes. Jiang Guanhan leapt onto the 9-tailed fox's back. The beast spun, its hooves blazing crimson flames, and shot toward the southern city gates like a streak of light. The Slake family of 3 arrived at the southern gate, where chaos still reigned. The earlier explosion had left the area in utter disarray. News of the eastern gate's situation had also reached them, and many were fleeing. The Wulwan Empire was built within subterranean caverns. Beyond the urban districts lay vast stretches of barren wilderness and sparsely populated mining zones. They intended to seek refuge in those areas and were now rushing toward the city exits. Soldiers from the city garrison, weapons in hand and eyes bloodshot, bellowed through megaphones, all men, fall back. Grab your weapons and prepare to fight. Let the elderly, women, and children leave. But precisely because of such statements, many male lizard folk began to stir. Why? We're lizard folk too. We have lizard folk rights. If we're leaving, we leave together. No gender discrimination. Everyone was desperate to escape, who cared about such distinctions now? Such pleas might have held weight before, but now that even the central district had fallen, the Imperial Propaganda Center had broadcast the news to every lizard man. The Empire was crumbling. Holding out meant certain death. No one wanted to die for nothing. Clashes erupted constantly. Soldiers even opened fire on their own comrades, sparking resistance. Slake led the children to the southern district. Her silver battle armor made her stand out like a beacon. Even the youngest Imperial children knew what that silver armor signified. It was armor reserved for the highest-level generals, second only to the Emperor's war god. It was the dream of every child in the Empire. That's the Silver Armor General. A child pointed at Slake, his eyes blazing with fervor as he shouted, "The Silver Armor General has come to save us. We're saved." The surrounding lizard folk quickly spotted Slake and her 2 children, surging forward in excited shouts. "General! The General is here! We're saved! General, you'll protect us, won't you? You'll protect the people of the Wulwan Empire, won't you?" Slake's mind was in turmoil. Her purpose in coming here was to secure passage for escape. Time was short, she hadn't had time to change clothes. Besides, this life-saving battle armor was not something she could simply swap out. In desperation, she could only shout, "I have urgent military business to attend to. Make way!" But thousands had already gathered around her, seeing her as their last hope. Who would leave? Many garrison soldiers also crowded in, filled with hope. "General! What are your orders? Speak now!" Slake felt a tearing pain in her heart. She too had sworn an oath beneath the military banner, vowing to protect her nation and its people. But now, she must leave with her children. Otherwise, they would all die. Between home and country, she chose to protect her family first. "Don't block my way. And tell no one I was here." Slake soared skyward, swiftly heading south. She dared not delay, for the enemy could pursue at any moment. The lizard men left behind froze in stunned disbelief. Their great silver armor general, the one they'd called upon for help, had fled. All stood numb, refusing to accept this brutal reality. She must have a special mission, right? But she's heading away from the battlefield. Someone trembled in despair. Slake's escape route led away from South City, toward the barren wasteland beyond. Don't let her get away. How could she abandon us and leave alone? The lizard men roared in fury, feeling betrayed. Hu Mengfang had already arrived with Jiang Guanghan. With Lu Karen's guidance, Slake had no chance of evading their pursuit. Seeing the mass of lizard men gathered below, Hu Mengfang unleashed a torrent of foxfire. In an instant, crimson and white flames engulfed them completely. They were consumed. Chapter 2267, Surrender and You Live. Chase her. Don't let her escape. Gochin and Cheong Chi have both dealt with their opponents, we can't fall behind. Otherwise, if word gets out, it'll be a disgrace. Slake, carrying 2 children, dared not reveal her 2-legged serpent form for fear of exposing her position, so her speed was far from swift. Before long, Hu Mengfang, transformed into a 9-tailed fox, closed in behind her. Seeing the 2 children in her arms, Hu Mengfang's fox eyes narrowed to slits. He opened his long, slender jaws, unleashing a foxfire blast directly at Slake's position. The massive fireball plummeted like a falling star. Slake instantly felt the scorching heat behind her, the sky itself shifting color. Her face drained of color, yet she had no choice but to turn. A blinding light erupted from her eyes. The silver flash laser ignited, instantly piercing Hu Mengfang's foxfire. But the delay had cost her precious time. Hu Mengfang's objective was already achieved. The chase brought them to the vicinity where the enormous 9-tailed fox sat elegantly perched atop a mountain peak, smiling warmly at her. "Did you really think you could escape?" Jiang Guanghan, shouldering his massive warhammer, looked down at her coldly. Slake could feel the trembling of the 2 children in her arms. Deep down, she knew today's situation would likely not end well. She drew a deep breath. Having come this far, what else could she say? She shouted, "I surrender. But you must promise not to harm my children." Hu Mengfang narrowed his eyes. While other 9-tailed foxes radiated auspiciousness, for some reason, when he squinted, he always gave off the aura of a malevolent demon. "Oh? You wish to surrender? That's most welcome." However, he extended a hand, pointing at Slake's embrace, "You must hand over your children. Only then can we trust your sincerity." "Impossible!" Slake shouted without hesitation. "I will not be separated from my children." Hu Mengfang sighed helplessly, crouching atop the mountain peak as he looked down upon Slake. His massive form resembled a demon, radiating an oppressive aura. His body blazed with foxfire as he murmured like a ghostly whisper, "Then how will you prove your sincerity?" Slake hesitated for a moment, feeling the tremors of her children in her arms, her heart in turmoil. "I can guarantee I won't fight in the upcoming battle. You may attack the Imperial City as you please." Hearing this, Hu Mengfang suddenly threw back his head and let out a shrill, clink 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 clink. "How naive! Your Imperial City has already fallen to us. You have only two choices now, submit, or die." Jiang Guanghan, shouldering his massive hammer, spoke coldly, "Rest assured, if you surrender, we won't harm you or your children. A black war chariot-level lizard man would be quite useful to us." He extended his left hand toward Slake. "Join us. You could even become one of us." Hu Mengfang glanced around. Many lizard men still lived in the southern district, their presence now causing widespread panic. "Use them as a pledge of allegiance. Go kill them all, and I'll believe you truly wish to surrender." Slake's face darkened. "This." Hu Mengfang pointed at her. "Or hand over your child." Slake clutched the child in her arms, her heart torn apart. Surrendering her own child was utterly impossible, yet she could never bring herself to harm her own kind. After all, she sought only to save her own life, not to become a villain who harmed her own kind. Chaos reigned within her heart. The wails of her children and fellow tribesmen echoing in her ears pushed her agony to its peak. At that very moment, Jiang Guanghan and Hu Mengfang exchanged a glance. Instantly, Jiang Guanghan soared skyward, positioning himself directly above Slake. A colossal warhammer spiraled down with devastating force. The shockwave crushed downward in a whirlwind of unstoppable might. Slake's mind reeled in chaos, her reaction delayed by a split second. By the time she realized Jiang Guanghan's attack was upon her, it was already too late. For Hu Mengfang, from afar, unleashed a barrage of foxfire directly at her position. In her panic, Slake shifted into her mutant beast's form. Yet her priority was shielding her two children, leaving her severely wounded. Hiss! Transformed into a two-legged serpent, she took Jiang Guanghan's shockwave squarely across her lower back. Her spine twisted at an unnatural angle, like a spring cushion crushed by a heavy weight, her head and tail nearly touching. She felt her vertebrae shatter, yet her arms remained tightly wrapped around her children. Hu Mengfang and Jiang Guanghan spotted her vulnerability. Slake dared not retreat underground with her two young ones. Now, not only was escape impossible, but she had to divide her focus to shield her vulnerable offspring. Classic villain expressions spread across their faces, they felt no pity for Slake. Attacks came in relentless waves, showing no mercy. Slake could not possibly shield her children while fending off their assaults. "Stop! Stop this! I surrender! I'll do whatever you demand!" Slake shouted. She did not fear death, but she knew that if she perished, her two children would be doomed. Yet she had no idea that from the very beginning, Hu Mengfang and Jiang Guanghan had never intended to let her live. After all, this was a black chariot-level origin from a mutant. If they could get their hands on it, their strength would increase dramatically. It was a treasure beyond compare. This battle was fought for this very thing. Why would they accept her surrender? The nine-tailed fox, gathering energy for an attack from afar, shrieked sharply, "Cease resistance! Bind your hands! Hand over your children! Only then will we believe your sincerity!" Boom! As he spoke, his attack slammed viciously into Slake. Slake's body tore apart in agony, yet this proud silver armor general held no advantage in the fight. Her vaunted abilities had long been thoroughly studied and countered by her opponents. After a moment's hesitation, she knew forcing the fight would only lead to certain death. Gritting her teeth, she declared, "I surrender to the land dwellers. Please honor your promise and spare me and my child." All she could do now was pray that her opponent was a man of his word. "Of course," Hu Mengfang said with a sly grin, "everyone knows I'm a man of principle. I never harm women or children. Surrender, and I'll let you both go." Chapter 2268, Jiang Guanghan, I am a man of principle. Slake wrestled intensely with her decision. She reasoned that as a black charioteer mutant, she was among the elite in human society. Her opponent would surely keep her for exploitation rather than kill her. Thus, she truly relinquished resistance and reverted to human form. Seeing this, Hu Mengfang grinned as he retrieved a pair of heavy shackles from his person, instructing Slake to fasten them herself. These shackles were specifically engineered for mutant, crafted from a unique material that nearly rendered the wearer incapable of using their supernatural once secured. However, their application was highly restrictive. The target must first be subdued or, as in this case, surrender voluntarily. Slake's heart sank as she had the black shackles tossed beside her. She understood that choosing surrender meant there was no turning back. Finally, Slake lifted her head to glance at the sky, then looked down at the terrified child. With a heavy sigh, she bent to pick up the shackles and fasten them around her own body. Click! 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 The shackles locked around her limbs and neck. As they tightened, sharp spikes instantly pierced her blood vessels. A potent drug began spreading through her bloodstream, completely sapping her strength to resist. Slake collapsed limply to the ground, feeling utterly powerless. Hu Mengfang and Jiang Guanghan approached cautiously, still maintaining their guarded demeanor. These shackles should be fine, right? We can't afford any mishaps. Rest assured. The neurotoxin isn't easily neutralized. Once it takes effect, she'll become just another ordinary person. Slake lifted her head to look at the two. I hope you keep your promise. Bang! In the next instant, Jiang Guanghan swung his warhammer with blinding speed, smashing Slake's skull to pieces. The massive lizard-like body crashed to the ground, twitching in futile agony as if accusing the two men of breaking their promise. Two small lizard children froze in terror before letting out heart-wrenching screams and throwing themselves onto their mother's body. They wailed in horror and despair, their eyes filled with hatred as they glared at Jiang Guanghan and Hu Mengfang. Jiang Guanghan's expression was cold, yet an unusual light shimmered in his eyes. Rest assured, I will honor my promise. I, Jiang Guanghan, have never killed women or children in my entire life. But, he stared at the corpses of the Slake family and sneered coldly, too bad you're not a child, and your children aren't women. Today is a battle for the nation's fate. I won't spare a single lizard man. Humans and lizard men of the Huashu kingdom were mortal enemies, a hatred ingrained in their very bones. What was most terrifying was that lizard men didn't even regard humans as sentient beings, they could even eat human flesh. Thus, peaceful coexistence with lizard men was impossible. Zhang Yi had long understood this truth. Jiang Guanghan and Hu Mengfang, both veterans of the military, naturally showed no mercy either. You lizard bastards, dare to look. Hu Mengfang narrowed his eyes, unleashing two bursts of foxfire. Without hesitation, he incinerated the two young creatures to ashes. He then satisfiedly collected Slake's share of the origin. Can't split it now, but you'll get your due portion once we return. Hu Mengfang said to Jiang Guanghan with a smirk. As agreed before their journey, they'd split the spoils 60-40, Jiang Guanghan, as the main force, took 60%, while Hu Mengfang took 40%. But even this wasn't theirs to keep entirely. They'd have to hand over a portion upon returning. Machem, understood. Jiang Guanghan nodded. Hu Mengfang seemed to catch the flicker of regret in Jiang Guanghan's eyes. Smiling, he transformed into human form and walked over, slapping his right hand on Jiang Guanghan's shoulder. Mercy and loyalty aren't meant for our enemies. Even if they look human, they're not. Those not of our kind have different hearts. Feeling pity for them will only harm our own people someday. Hearing Hu Mengfang's words, Jiang Guanghan felt a little better. Let's go. We need to keep clearing the battlefield. He hoisted his heavy hammer, glancing back at the vast southern city. The area of a single southern city equaled over a dozen human cities, enormous. Clearing every lizard man within this expanse would indeed require considerable effort. Begin the cleanup. Wipe out every last one of these vermin. The two charged into the city, commencing their purge. With no Epsilon-tier mutant to obstruct them and no attacks from the heavenly Iron Curtain, they moved through the city like demon gods, slaughtering the lizard men with utter abandon. From every front, grim battle reports kept pouring in, weighing heavily on the hearts of the silver armor generals still engaged in combat. They had placed immense hope in Jinglu above the heavens. Yet as the battle dragged on, the terrifying energy storm raging in the sky filled them with dread. They couldn't help but wonder, could Marshal Jinglu still prevail against such a monstrous threat emerging from the human alliance? This oppressive mood began to affect their fighting. Among all fronts, the greatest advantage belonged to Miter, the Weather Child. Drawing on her vast combat experience, she knew her abilities were exposed. Yet she still used immense currents to drag Zhiyu deep beneath the earth. Under super heavy pressure, the currents would carry Zhiyu all the way to the Earth's core, where she would be incinerated by extreme heat. Judging by the battle's progress, land-dwelling beings possessed exceptionally rare control over water. In this frozen age, all surface water had solidified into ice. Consequently, water attribute mutants had largely been eliminated by nature, surviving only in maritime environments. Miter's mood darkened as the relentless stream of bad news reached her ears. She frowned. "Hold on a moment, I'm coming to support you." Turning, she prepared to rush to the nearest battlefield to help her comrades turn the tide. But suddenly, a tremendous roar erupted behind her. The earth shook violently. Accompanied by a dragon-like bellow, a colossal ice pillar burst forth from beneath the ground. Miter spun around to see the colossal ice pillar bloom like a dazzling flower upon the ground. Zhiyu emerged from the ice blossoms, her battle suit torn and tattered, clearly battered and bruised. Yet her eyes blazed with an intense, fiery light. This woman. Miter's gaze darkened. Had that strike truly failed? In truth, the technique had indeed taken effect. A colossal torrent slammed into Zhiyu, hurling her violently toward the Earth's core. Under the crushing pressure of billions of tons of water, Zhiyu found resistance nearly impossible. Yet she could transform every drop of that torrent into ice, harnessing the Earth's natural resistance to slow its relentless flow.